Hey, Teddy King here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video we're going to take a look at the Fuji X-S20 mirrorless camera, a model that Fuji is tailoring towards both photographers and vloggers. If you're familiar with Fuji's product line, you'll recognize that this camera is very much in the mid-range. So it's not a flagship for the company, but it's certainly not entirely entry-level either. That doesn't mean, though, that it's not something you can graduate to, which is the way I saw it while shooting with it as well. If you've been using smartphones to take a lot of your photos and you feel like you need to up your game or you want to take it to a different level, this might be the kind of camera you would be looking for, primarily because it does both photography and videography well. The XS20 has a pretty nice body here. It's relatively small for a camera of this size. Pretty good grip too, so not a camera that's going to be too difficult, I think, to wield around or to travel with. Actually, as a travel camera, I would say this is really nice to take along with you. I have here the 18 to 55 millimeter lens, the XF 18 to 55. When I travel with this, most of the heft actually came from the lens, not from the body. If you were to attach a lens like, for example, something a lot smaller, like for example, you have this, now this 8 millimeter lens, it was positively lightweight when it was combined with this thing. So as you can see, when you have a different lens on it, things change. Now, one thing that's obvious is that we have a setup here that is conducive to a hybrid shooting situation, also something that would appeal to those who are either graduating to a mirrorless camera or you know, just people who want these types of settings and don't want dials that are very manually focused, right? So that means then the dials like this and the one in the front here, okay, are customizable. So you can actually decide what you want them to be. So you can see here that I'm making the adjustment with the shutter speed. Okay, the aperture is controlled with the lens in this case, so there's no dial for that. And then if I go here, now this is important here because these are the film simulations that Fuji offers in a lot of its cameras. These simulations are absolutely worth shooting with. They are excellent. They are probably the best in the industry, and they borrow so heavily from the company's heritage in film photography. So if you want to change things up a little bit or really get experimental with the kind of photography you want to capture, this is a really great place to start. And those are accessible really at all times. So it doesn't matter really what mode you're in. So even if you're video, vlogging, whatever, you can apply any of those into those images. Even better, if you shoot, so even after you take a photo, you can apply the simulation to that photo after the fact in the editor within the camera as well. One way to do that is if you go and you preview a photo here and you press the menu button, you then will see this menu. Now, this image happens to be in RAW, but you can do this others too. And when you go into this RAW conversion or this particular menu here, you scroll down, you see film simulation. Go to film simulation, and then you can apply any single one you want onto the image afterward, and then output it or export it after when you copy the image over to your laptop or computer. So it's a pretty unique feature that's just not available in other cameras, and really cool integration to fine-tune photos. If you felt like, oh, okay, you know what, I only got my one chance to take that shot, I'd like to see it in a different film simulation, you don't lose out on that. You can do it after the fact. For the most part, the menu system is okay, but it's also going to be a little confusing because there's just so much going on here. And that's a testament not just to what the camera offers you, but also in the time you're going to have to take to figure out what you want, especially if you're new to this sort of thing. If you're graduating from a smartphone and this is maybe your first mirrorless, or you want to take your vlogging content, your content creation to another level, it is always worth, I think, understanding what all these things do. The manual, there's an online manual for this camera that can help explain those things, but for the most part, some of these are going to be straightforward, others are not. And it just goes to show that there's a lot going on here, but finding everything is where things get a little challenging. So for example, didn't mean to take that shot, but now if you press, okay, this here is the focusing, okay, that's what the joystick does there. Now if I go here, right? That's the shortcut. That button, by the way, is also programmable. I've shortcutted it to film simulation because I found the dial here was a little bit ergonomically just didn't work for me. The autofocusing on this camera is quite good, but you can also adjust or turn that on or toggle that. Note though that this refers to humans. So what I'm toggling here refers to human eyes and faces, not those of animals or birds, which is a feature that's in this camera as well, but you gotta get to it separately within the menu system. Something that I think Fuji needs to fix. Just make it so that it's all in one menu and that it's easily accessible the way this was. Now here you'll note that at the top we have a button for ISO, which you can always adjust manually as well, and we have a button here. So the Q button gives you a shortcut to a number of different menu options, right, that you can adjust here on the fly. It's convenient, I do like it, and it's been pretty standard in Fuji cameras for a long time. So now if I've gone to the menu and I want to make an adjustment, it's not these dials, but it's actually this dial that makes that change, you know? So you can do that with anything. So obviously if you want to make an adjustment here for even the film simulation and you know what you're doing, you can do that very quickly here too. You know, the type of autofocus that you have going on here. All of these things are accessible and easily switchable when you go to this dial over here on the left. Of course, what makes this a vlogging camera and something that's ideal for selfies is that you have a fully flip-out articulating 3-inch LCD display. So this way you can just turn it around and have the camera face you, and that's it, right? So that's convenient, naturally, for a number of reasons, but also even for photography. One thing I like to do in my particular case was to have the camera sort of on the ground, and so, like, for example, if I laid it down like this, okay, so I laid it down like this way I was able to take photos and know exactly what I was shooting. I did this even also by putting it on the ground like this. So for example, I took a photo of the ceiling of the top in a cathedral, and in order to get as wide a view as possible, I didn't use this lens, I used the 8mm for that shot, but in order to get as wide a view as possible, I laid it down on the ground and put it on a timer. So I just pressed the timer, pressed the shutter button, the timer went off, I stepped out of the way, and boom, got the shot. Image quality is excellent on this camera, especially when you compose your shots the right way, which I know is just standard procedure when you're using any camera, but in this case, I think the camera almost rewards you when you do things the right way, but it does matter that you also use some of the features that are in here. The film simulation modes go without saying. I think those have to be part of a workflow that you're gonna take on when it comes to using this camera for whatever it is you want to produce. Largely because there are great options, but also because they really work. And despite the fact that there are filters on top of that, so if you look at the top here on the dial, there is a filter section which gives you about another baker's dozen worth of filters that are separate from the film simulation modes. The filters are okay, but I would, again, they are, you have to take some artistic license based on what it is you're going to do with those, whereas the film simulation modes, I feel, have something more artistic to them, right? I mean, it's an ode to a bygone era of Fujifilm's heritage in film photography. So the shots that I took were largely focused on the latter, and I shot with the camera the way I normally would anything else, but I appreciated that I had options where I could make adjustments on the fly. The menu system, again, as I mentioned, you know, a work in progress, but I would argue it's also better than some of the competitors. And once you get the handle, I feel like once you get the handle of what it is you're trying to do and what fits with your workflow and your eye, your vision, I think you'll be very, very taken with what the camera can do, which is always good. On video, I prioritize more still photos because that's the kind of content that I'm creating. But for video, I don't think you're gonna have any major issues here too. You can of course use this with a gimbal if you want to, but it's also that you can shoot in log, you can shoot quick clips. Of course, with the articulating screen, you can also shoot yourself. You can capture yourself doing anything, whether it's still photos, video, things like that. So you can prop it up on a tripod and do whatever it is that, you know, if you want to talk, you want to interview somebody, all of that is easy enough to do. The ports also are there, so if you want to plug in a mic, you have a wireless mic or something like that, no problem, very easy to set up on here. All in all, I would say that there's one more thing to consider, which is the price. It's great. The camera works with any XF lens that Fuji offers. So the lens variety is significant, and that does matter, of course, when you're using it. I mean, like I shot with the 8mm, I shot with this. There was a 555 to 200mm that I shot with also. So I tried 3 different lenses of this camera, and I liked, each one was great with it. So the cost, though, of the body just on its own is going to be a bit high for a camera in the mid-range. But at the same time, on the hybrid side of things, this will do better, especially on stills, than I would argue some of the other mid-range mirrorless cameras are doing. So keep that in mind, that if what you're trying to do really straddles that line between the still photos and the video, you'd be hard-pressed to find something that's a lot better than this right now. And that's my review of the Fuji X-S20. Available now at Best Buy. You can actually read more about it by just clicking that link below. For the Best Buy blog, I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.